Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Audra Carpenter. Audra, excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, absolutely. I always look forward to my conversations with Audra. She has so much information, so much knowledge and experience that I'm excited to try to delve a little bit deeper into. But of course, before we do that, I want to read a little bit more about Audra so you can hear about some of those awesome things she's been working on. An entrepreneur with a diverse portfolio ranging from coffee shops to digital marketing agency, she has coached and mentored thousands of budding business owners and established Zindo+Co Marketplace, an edutech platform dedicated to supporting online business growth. And I had the opportunity to be a guest on Audra's podcast, and we talked a little bit about AI, all the awesome things. And she has a phenomenal conference that I also got a chance to speak at. But I really geek out, and like I mentioned, I really geek out on just talking with her about all the tinkering that she's doing, that I'm doing, and just overall the tools to see. There's just so many things out there. But one of the things that really kind of touched me is I was reading a little bit more about her, and when I was preparing for this interview, and she said even as a little girl, she's always been driven by challenging herself and doing the thing that hasn't been done before. So Audra, excited to have you on the show. Excited even more about what you're working on and doing. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I'm excited. This is the first podcast I've done in 2024. So this is great. This is kind of setting the level and the direction going forward. So thank you for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being there. And let's absolutely set that table and have a productive and an awesome year to follow. So I guess to kick things off, rather than talking about this year, let's rewind the clock a little bit. Talk about how things got started, what I call your CEO story.
Well, gosh, I mean, so many years of doing this, but I would probably just tick on the agency stuff. So 2009, I moved from owning a title company into digital marketing, and somebody introduced me to a Dan Kennedy event. So I go back to the days of JKIC and the underground with Yannick Silver and those kind of guys, and really found my way of providing services. Started with social media services, and that kind of evolved into web design and SEO. And 15 years at doing this industry, you will learn it all. There's no reason not to, especially if you want to be able to provide a complete solution for your clients. Last couple of years, I've been pivoting a little bit more into done with you services instead of me just doing all of it, which has been a really nice transition. There's so many different things to do. I think that's what keeps me interested in this industry is there's always something else to learn. There's always something else to challenge yourself. A new opportunity comes up with a client, lots and lots of good stuff. And then, of course, with AI rolling out, that just opened up a whole new world of opportunity. I'm definitely that I'm an early adopter. I want to be at the front of change and, AI I know it's not a podcast about AI, but AI coming available for business has changed the game, and it's made it harder, but at the same time, it's made it amazingly easy to take advantage of all the opportunity that's available now. So it's the best time. I mean, no time in history have we ever had this kind of experience. It's just everybody's got to, as fast as it's moving, I would suggest we slow down for just a second and embrace what's in front of us and happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's one of the great gifts of being able to be, appreciative and having that gratitude and having the awareness around what's changing, because you want to make sure that, we're not caught on that treadmill and just running, but where you're running towards, you're being able to be strategic about it.
Yeah, it's amazing time. It's an amazing time to be a business owner, a CEO of a company, because you can make such an impact now. Where, prior to this, there were some limitations either on resources or skills or time, and a lot of those barriers have been removed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that word opportunity. And because I think it's so fascinating that you said that, it's so exciting. And I think a lot of times when people are the tinkerers, they are the creative, the innovators, they're the ones that like to try things out. They love times like this and opportunities like this because it is, in fact, an opportunity where others sometimes can say, I don't want to change another thing. I don't want to have to learn another thing. But really, I think it's those innovators that truly kind of get attracted like a magnet to those times in history.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but I'm always from, the cup is half full, or, it's always full, but I'm more optimistic about things like
Mhm.
this than pessimistic. And yeah, I get it. There's some fear around change. I just have never been one of those. I thrive change, because if I see change, that means I'm growing. And if I fear it, then you stop growing. And as a leader, you have to grow, you have to evolve. If you're at the same place, 6 months from now, that's not good. And that's not good for the team. If you have a team you're leading, or, your product, service, your clients, I mean, you need to evolve. You need to challenge yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's imperative because, change is the only constant. And I think that, again, like you have such a responsibility to, your
Hmm.
team, even to your personal mission or things that you're trying to do. It
Yeah.
kind of requires you to not, I always say, not get so attached to the how, but the why. If you know why
Hmm.
you're doing those things, then
Hmm.
you know the tools, the way that you do them, the steps that you take will evolve and change. But you want to make sure you're dialed in and connected to that why.
Absolutely.
Awesome,
Absolutely.
awesome, awesome.
It's such a gift. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I wanted to drill down a little bit more and hear a little bit more on your
Please.
why and the things that you're doing. Can you take us through exactly like how you're serving your clients? I know you have your podcast, you have
Yeah.
your conference, all those things, but I also want to hear about Zen and Co too and all the awesome things you're doing there.
Sure. Thank you. Zindo came out of, I think, more frustration. So, fast forward as an agency owner, 10 years, 12 years, it's expensive to work with me. But you get to a place, I think, as your career evolves, how many more people at 10 million do I help get to 15 million? How many more people do um, but the people that actually need agency services can't afford you because they're not making enough money yet. They don't have systems, they don't have infrastructures, they don't even understand how a business is built. Now, mind you, I did some volunteering back in 2017 with an organization called score.org. They're here in the US, and it's a group of volunteers that's nationwide. They're funded by the Small Business Administration, and we just volunteer. Well, I started volunteering. I felt like I was a little anchorless. You get a little burnout on delivering the same services. It was just rinse and repeat. I'm 10 years into this. I needed to find my why. I need to find out, okay, do I stay in this industry, or is it time to do something else? And when you work with higher end clients, it's a very different conversation. It's numbers and metrics and profit and loss statements, and it's finding more money. And that's all fine. I love doing that. I'm very good at helping people make money, but some of the passion of why I was doing it was gone. So I started volunteering. I always know if I'm stuck, I just need to go give. The
Mhm.
answer will show itself, right? So I started volunteering, and I was excited, but I was also super sad. And the reason why is I started mentoring. I think my first year, I probably mentored 180 people. And
Mhm.
it's all about marketing and sales and, doing business online and all that kind of good stuff. And I could not get over some of the amazing ideas these people had. I was like, how'd you think of that? That is
Mhm.
brilliant. But the sad thing was, it wasn't going to matter how many conversations I had with them. They weren't going to figure out the marketing.
Mhm.
And so I know that product is never going to see the time of day that it should. It could be a multi-million dollar product, but because there's nobody there giving them the more direct steps on how to actually build a business, they're going to fail. It's never going to be more than a $50,000 a year business. And these people had high hopes, and they're determined and they're driven with passion and excitement of doing something great. But I've done this so many years. I could tell you when I meet you if the business is going to make it or not, if you've got what it
Mhm.
takes. And it's not just about money or digging in and learning everything. It's really just being able to focus on the right things at the right time. And that was kind of where I decided, look, I got to do something different. I got to do something to help these people. Now, I don't know where all your audience is, but I can speak really to the US market. Too many businesses are failing for no reason. There's absolutely no reason, especially if you've got a good product with the market, you've got it priced right. I mean, bearing that all those variables are in order, there's no reason businesses are failing now. The blueprints are there, the steps are there, the training is there, the how is there. There's absolutely no reason for it anymore. And so I started saying, okay, it's really an order thing. People are doing the wrong things at the wrong time. And so I started building the pieces, which is what the marketplace is. So I have WordPress hosting, I have a training site, I have a freelance site where they can contract with work with other people to get services provided. And I've got a barter site where maybe you don't have any money, but you could trade services with somebody that has a skill that you need. What else do I have in there? I have a tech support site. And then I've got an AI site that's coming with GPTs and a couple other things. But the goal is we need to simplify this conversation. There's so much amazing marketing out there that everybody gets super overwhelmed. And let me take this course and let me get this one on email marketing or funnels or this or that. And they're not ready for it yet. They haven't launched yet. So stop trying to automate stuff if you haven't launched. Stop trying to build a website before you find an audience. I mean, there's so many things that are done. And if people would just have a simpler step-by-step, that would increase the chances of their success. Now, I can't guarantee it's going to work, but what I can say is it's got a much better outcome of doing the right things at the right time, and more businesses would succeed. So that was a long way to say why I'm on this mission, but it really is important because there's just some really, really amazing products out there and people behind them that deserve a shot to get out there and let the world be served by it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that because I think, like I always say, like, again, like as much as we want to know that the how of what you're doing, we want to know the why that kind of fuels you. And I love how that was rooted in those conversations that you had, being the score. I think mentor is the right phrase or the right
Yeah.
title that you had, but those conversations fueled everything that you've been able to build now. And there's always like the philosophical question of if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around, does it make a sound? And you feel the same
Right.
way about business. If you have a really great business, really great product or service, and you aren't able to get the word out, aren't able to actually impact and touch people, are you really making the impact that you could? And I think that's exactly what you're touching on, where it becomes maybe too overwhelming or complicated for these business owners. They have the product or service, they have the idea, but it's just they don't understand that marketing piece, and they need help in terms of bridging that gap.
Right. And so, so Zindo comes around and it's set at affordable prices. It's not big money. It's very affordable. And again, this was my way of being able to say, let me help you. I won't take our responsibility for it. And I won't do your deliverables, but let me kind of point you in the right direction. So I've been a coach for many, many years, never really used that title. What I call myself is I'm more of a guide. So you're driving along the road and I'm going to guide you. No, you need to get off on this next off ramp and take that first left. That's where you need to be right now because that's where your business is. Or, you got to keep going. You got 5 miles up the road. Don't stop yet. And I want to be that person more than the, let me build your house for you. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be able to help a larger subset of business owners so they can get to 100,000, so they can get to their first million. Because if, again, going back to the right product with the right market, if those are there, there's no reason why. Now, here's the caveat to it. With AI, your chances or your competition has just increased tenfold, probably 100-fold, because now everybody has access to the same resources. If you know how to use it, it's a very powerful tool. But here's the crazy thing. It's taken me 15 years in this industry to learn what I've learned. I was in real estate for 10 years before that, and I owned a coffee shop for 7 years before that. all these years of knowledge, somebody in a grass hut in a third world country that has access to the internet, can pull you a marketing strategy for Facebook. So the playing field has now been leveled, and that what that means to me is you even have to become more on top of your game and more on top of your products and services. Now we have the resources available to help us with that, but if you think you're going to sit around and just no, I'm going to be grassroots and I'm going to do it, organically as a human, and you're 6 months from now, it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
Because the
that
rest
makes
of us
so
are using these tools. I'm sorry, the
Mhm.
rest of us are using these tools to advance.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's just like maybe not as much awareness or understanding of like the power of these tools and how to be
Yeah.
able to leverage them. But I love how you talked about like each of the experiences that you have, and now you have those different opportunities that have now been packaged for us to kind of take advantage of. But it's only if you take advantage of, only if you execute on them, only if you do those
Yeah.
things. And I don't know how you feel if people are as open. I'm sure they're more open than they are, but I'm not sure if business owners, these entrepreneurs, the builders, this opportunity, if people are really like looking at it as much or as valuable as it could be.
I would say it's mixed. So some do. I mean, so first let me back up. Nobody wants to become a marketer, right? Business
Yeah.
owners don't want to become marketers. They want to do their widget, whatever that is. That's where their passion is. That's where they want to spend their time. But how I challenge that is they have to learn enough to get to revenue to hire somebody then, because somebody still has to do it, right? So that conversation is, don't even bother. If you're not willing to do the marketing to get to revenue, then you're not going to sell a product. It'll be very, very challenging. I shouldn't say you're not going to. I'm going to tell you it's going to be hard, much harder than if you would have just dug in to get to revenue and then task it out. But somebody will always need to be the person that's taking care of that. With AI and the direction that it's going, some have embraced it. Some clients of mine are, Audra, get in here and get us set up and put all the automations in place. And others are, no, we're just going to wait it out and see. And, and I can't. We're recording this, and when it comes out 3 months from now, it's going to be a completely different conversation. So do we know where it's going to go? No. But should we take advantage of the things that we can do right now? And I say yes, from a business perspective, to stay competitive and to be able to stay in the fight for this next evolution of what 2024 is going to bring. It's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, embracing, as we talked about before, that change, the things that are, the game has changed, the way the game has changed, like everything's changing. And it's so important that, especially as a leader and within an organization,
Yeah.
that you start to take those steps, you start to, at the very least, experiment, but start to really see like where those things can go. So I know we talked a little bit around AI. I know when I was on
Mhm.
your podcast, you talked a lot about AI. Could you take us through a little bit more on what you're doing there, how you're making an impact?
Sure, absolutely. So we held one event last year. We'll hold probably 6 or 8 this year. And really, we're in the weeds. So we're past the stage of, AI is cool and look at all the shiny tools. We're past that. We know that every day hundreds of tools are being launched. Different people are coming up with different ideas. We're at the implementation stage. So what we'll typically do is, what I will typically do is go into a client's and look at their repeatable tasks. What are they doing consistently all the time? And then what I do is I take those tasks and I say, okay, out of these, which one of them can I actually put some automation behind? Is there a better way, quicker, faster, better results, better data tasks that I can do with that thing that is being repeated within that company? And some of them, yes, some of them, no. Some of them we're just not there yet, and the staff still has to do it. But many of them we could put automations behind, and they're getting better data, they're getting it faster, and which is allowing them to give their customers a better experience. It doesn't get any better than that. And I know as more and more tools, we're able to kick them and beat on them and test them to push these different LLMs and different types of models that are coming out, we'll be able to do even more and more in this process. All the mundane, repetitive stuff is really where businesses should focus right now. Can I automate this and get it off my staff's plate? And can it get me better results so they can focus on something else? Maybe developing more marketing campaigns, maybe another product, maybe more customer correspondence where they can develop new things. I mean, let's spend the time there talking to the humans and let this other stuff be handled by the machines.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I appreciate you breaking that down and like how to look at that and all of course, everything you're doing with the seminars, the conferences, the summit, I think even, it just that way to really not just think about, okay, this is in the sky, but this is something that on a daily basis can be implemented into our organization so that we can continue to work on the things that are going to move the needle forward even more. We don't have to worry about the repetitive, the mundane tasks. We can focus on those things that are really going to drive things forward, which sometimes comes around the strategy, comes around those having those conversations, all those things that we quote unquote now don't have enough time to do. We now have something that we can quote unquote delegate it to so that we can lean more into that.
That's a great point. We cannot, even if you have a small team, you typically can't get it all done. There's not enough hours in the day, even just to maintain, let alone grow. If you don't utilize this, it's going to be tough to compete in this space. So for anybody listening to this, if you're kind of on the fence or if you've dug in and started building with this, sit down for a week and just write out your tasks. I did this. I posted on Facebook 13 times today. I did it this day. I did it this day. You can automate a lot of that. A lot of social media can be automated now with tools like Make or Zapier and ChatGPT, and it automatically posts for you. So you're not even touching it anymore. And I'm not saying turn all your marketing and your sales on automation. What I'm saying is get rid of the stuff that's not touching your humans, so you can free up your time, so you can talk to your customers more, which builds loyalty and brand and, all that kind of good stuff. And they'll buy from you more. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do is make money, right? So use it. We've been given like we said at the beginning, an amazing gift right now. And it's time to just dig in with all fours and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely an amazing gift, amazing time and opportunity, but it's only if you seize it, only if you grab it. And, no better time than now to kind of take advantage of these opportunities. So let me ask you this.
Sure.
What would you consider to be what I call your secret sauce? This could be for yourself, the business, a combination of both, but what do you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique?
I would say probably first my drive. Yeah, there's not a lot of people work-wise can go toe-to-toe. I'm pretty driven as far as that kind of stuff goes. I think the other thing is I'm not afraid to ask questions. If I don't know it, it's okay. That just means I haven't learned it yet. So I'm pretty good at asking questions. And then I am a life learner. So when I'm not working, like on client stuff or on my own stuff, I'm learning. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm, reading or watching documentaries or reading biographies. I'm always doing something else. And, some people may say, well, when's your downtime? That is my downtime. I enjoy doing that. That is super fun for me to continue to learn like that. So I would say it's going to be pretty tough to outwork me. I'm pretty committed and not like a hustle burnout kind of thing. It's stuff I actually enjoy doing. So it doesn't tax me like that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. What is it? Find something you love to do. You never work a day in your life. And it's
There you
a
go.
beautiful place to be in when you're quote unquote working, but your work is fueling your energy as much as it is. So it's
Yeah.
like this cycle where you're going stronger and stronger and stronger and exponentially growing to get to those
Yeah.
goals, get to be able to impact your clients and all the awesome things you've been able to do.
Yeah. Agreed.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Awesome. Perfect. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to
Sure.
ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And we might have already touched on this, but could be an app, a book, or a habit that you have. But what's something that you feel like you lean on that makes you more effective and efficient?
I would say my biggest hack for me is I always go back to strategy. I don't do anything without a strategy. And I think crashing and burning so much in my early entrepreneur days of jumping in on step 42 and trying to make it work and then end up having to circle back around to the beginning. I don't do anything without it, but it is my secret sauce because I get the right foundation at the beginning and I know what I'm trying to build. It doesn't mean that it doesn't pivot or that it goes left or goes right, but because I put the time in to build the right stuff at the beginning, I'm able to build ridiculous things. I've probably built last year, just last year, me personally, 100, well, maybe 50,000 pages on websites last year between all of my websites, client sites, maybe let me change that number, maybe 25,000. Just me personally. And it's because once I go in and I've got the right product, the right decisions, the things I'm able to help people build on, man, it makes things so much easier. And so I would definitely say that's something that's like something I hold on to. So no matter what you go into, start with the strategy. What is the plan? What am I trying to achieve? Why am I doing this? What kind of resources do I need? Is it a person, a product, a process? And build on top of that.
Nice. I love that. And I almost wondered, like, we're talking a lot around, these tools that are out there, all these AI tools
Hmm.
and things that we can lean on for automation and all these things. I almost
Hmm.
wonder if you see that they're really, really cool. Like I always heard the comparison to your phone. Your phone can do a lot of phenomenal things, but that's only if you have the app on there and that's only if you can execute on the app. Do you feel like a lot of these tools it's very similar in the sense that you can do a lot of things, but it really goes to an entirely different level if you marry it with that strategy and you know that that can support your day-to-day operation. It can do whatever it is that's in alignment with your
Hmm.
strategy.
100%. I mean, so if I go back to like my tech stack that I use day in and day out, I would say ChatGPT, Bard, which those two, they do different things for me, right? So I get different kind of content depending on what kind. From an AI writer tool, if I want to get really specific, maybe I have a client that needs SEO stuff, I'll use either Copymatic.ai or I'll use Jasper. Copymatic is super interesting, very affordable, but it's owned by the Hoth. And if you know who the Hoth is, they are an SEO company that is very successful, but they also own that writing tool. So you're going to get a little bit better SEO content from it because of course, they want to build the right data with their SEO company. From a social media standpoint, don't really use anything specifically. Scheduling tools, I actually use Make over Zapier. Zapier's more, I look at Zapier more as a retail model and Make is more of a wholesale model. It's a little bit tougher, but it does allow a lot of different automations. So my personal social media, I automate.
Mhm.
So with Make and ChatGPT, I have set it up where it actually posts for me on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. So I don't have to do a whole lot there other than follow up with comments and things like that. Um, what other tools do I use? Opus Clip is a good one for creating shorts. So taking your YouTube videos or podcasts, things like that. I've also used Video. That one's pretty decent as well. Descript is always a great one for transcribing, editing podcasts, videos. You can do lots of great stuff with that. WordPress is definitely my go-to. I've built probably over 500 websites using WordPress. So that's definitely a daily tool for me. There's so many fun ones. I mean, again, I got to like limit myself. Otherwise, I end up down rabbit holes saying, well, let me see what else I can find.
Yeah,
Product hunt is the death for me, man.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So funny, Audra. If you end up in that rabbit hole, you might see me down there too, because I am that person as well too. I can find myself there, just kind of geeking out on all the things, which is why I love, all the conversations we have, because it's a phenomenal time.
It is.
But I wanted to ask you now for what I call more of a CEO nugget. This could be like a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell your younger business self if you were to hop into a time machine, or potentially you might tell your favorite client.
I would say if you're struggling or if you're not getting the growth that you want to see in your business, you got to stop. Turn off the computer, stop watching YouTube videos, stop watching even our podcast, stop everything for a moment and write down where you're at, and then literally write a list for yourself as what you should be focusing on versus what you're actually focusing on. Because I guarantee you the chances are they're not the same. And that's really what it comes down to. Business owner after business owner that I've talked to or I've worked with, it's the same thing. We're not focused on, I mean, we're taught to, excuse me, look to the future, right? Go to the end and re-engineer it backwards and work towards your goals and that kind of stuff. But you get so focused on trying to get there that you start trying to do the work that happens in that stage, but you haven't finished what you needed to do here to evolve to that next stage. So I would say if you're stuck, if you're struggling or just like, man, I'm at 1 million and I can't seem to get past it, sit down. Are you in the launch stage, the growth stage, the scaling stage? What's the other one? Automation stage. There's different things that we do through each one of those. And until you know where you're at and you're focusing on the right things, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to do a lot of circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful. No one wants to be doing any pirouettes or anything like that. You want to make sure that you're building and scaling and growing, your business. And I think it's I feel like I was reading Atomic Habits or rereading Atomic Habits, and it was talking about how that focus part is so huge because all it takes is being a couple centimeters, a couple miles off of your focus, and you can look in a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20, whatever the time is, and be so off from where your goal is. So I think that focus and pausing just to make sure that you are focusing and doing the right things on a regular basis is so huge. But I think we're so go. We're so much in that mode of trying to build that specific thing that sometimes we lose focus on if we're not on track or if we're not focusing on the right things.
Exactly. It's just, and it doesn't matter if it's a startup or if it's a company that's at the scale stage. Typically that is all, because I'll go in and consult with these guys and typically that's all it is. They have all the right pieces. They have the right staff. They've got the right product. They've just misdirected as to what they should be focusing on. Why are you worried about automation when you just launched? There's nothing to automate yet. But you've only got the same 24 hours as anybody else. If you're focused on that wrong skill, it does get you way off course and it's pretty tough to get back if you don't do it fast. And you either run out of money or you run out of passion because you can't get it to move. And you're like, gosh, but I'm so busy. I'm like, yeah, but none of this matters right now. Table it. You're focused on that wrong stuff.
Yeah, it's so huge. And that's why they say, execution is such a big thing, but it's only if you're executing on the things that are the right things to execute on. And like you mentioned, you can lose the time, the money, the passion, all the things potentially if you aren't doing that consistently in the way that, you should be. So absolutely appreciate that nugget. And so now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Audra, what does being a CEO mean to you?
I want to say, wow, that's a good one. I want to say that, how do I want to say this? Being a CEO is important. If you've decided to take that role, it's your responsibility to, one, be the best that you can, but two, to also lead and continue to not only provide for your staff and your customers and stuff like that, but also be your best version of yourself. When I started my first coffee shop, I first started hiring employees, it was super awkward and I didn't really know what I was doing. I had been an employee up till that point, but I never asked my employees to do something that I wasn't willing to do. And that was just a big thing for me, that I always felt if I'm going to lead, I need to lead by example. I need to say, look, we all got to get it done. They knew still who was the boss, and I still knew how to direct. But I think more respect comes from that, and trust and support and loyalty when you're saying, I'm not better than you. I'm just different than you, and that's okay. And we're all going to get the job done at whoever and wherever it needs to happen. And that has served me really, really well. That I'm a little bit different, where I'll get in the weeds with you. You want me to get in? We need to do this as a team effort. Let's do it. But now's a time where I got to lead, and I've got to be able to delegate as well. And I would say that's been just really important for me as a leader.
Yeah, it's huge. I think anytime if you're an employee or even on a team and you're rolling up your sleeves and you look over and you
Mm-hmm.
see everybody rolling up the sleeve, including the leader, the CEO, the entrepreneur, business owner,
Right.
whatever title it might be, it shows so much. I think about the culture that's within an organization. And I think when you're able to tap into that and embody that and show that on a regular
Mm-hmm.
basis, then it just helps fuel everything forward. And I think so many times when we think of leadership, we think of being a CEO, entrepreneur, business
Mm-hmm.
owner. It's thinking of like, what can we do for everybody else, or what can other people do to make that happen? But we often forget that by being our best selves, being the best leader that we can be, that really sets the
Yeah.
stage and sets the culture for phenomenal things to happen.
Well, just think of this one example. Elon Musk, and love him, hate him, it's not a debate about that. But just from a leadership or a CEO standpoint, he goes into Twitter. He posts on Twitter, what do you guys want? What do you want to see? What do you like? What do you not like? Now, regardless what the outcome was, most CEOs, when you get to a place like that, they're so far out of reach. There's so many layers between them and the actual customer, or them and half their staff, that they work towards getting away from people. And he went the other way. He actually showed up and says, I'll take the hits, I'll take the abuse, but I really want to hear. And I think that regardless what his motives were for doing that, more CEOs need to do that. More CEOs need to connect with their audience and not put so many layers between software or tech teams or customer service teams, and actually be front and center and talk to their people and find out what they want. That will go so much further with brand and loyalty than anything else that CEO could do further hidden back in the business.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think so many, I think a lot of times you hear like, are you having the right conversations, or on a deeper level, are you asking the right
Mm-hmm.
questions? And I think sometimes when you're asking those questions, you're having those conversations with your
Yeah.
team, your it might be your board members, it might be the people that you're
Yeah.
serving. As far as client, it could be so many so many different roles. But if you're asking those questions, then it really starts to, I think, open up those conversations to get the solutions and the goals and
Mm-hmm.
the impact that you ultimately want to have. So truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I
Okay.
appreciate your time even more. So what I want to do
Good.
now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find out about the conferences, the podcast, all the awesome things that you're working on, Audra.
All right. I would just say, keep listening to shows like this. Invest in yourself, invest in your education to continue to learn and evolve. We're in a fast pace, and I'm not saying you have to be fast paced. I'm saying we're in a fast paced. Find what you need and focus on that. It doesn't have to be all of it. Not everybody's cut out for that, nor should they. Right? You and I are deliverers, right? We deliver messages and we deliver shortcuts and simplify things. That's just the gift we've been given. But focus on what works for you and just really put your head down and stop looking at all that shiny stuff. It's not important. What's important is right here if you're trying to grow a business, and you'll be so thankful 6 months from now that you did. As far as getting a hold of me, I'm on all the social media platforms. It's just at Audra Carpenter on any of them. You can find me. Please come by and say hello.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And to make it even easier, we're going to have the links and information in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can follow up with you and hear about all the awesome things. But I love that last point that you kind of left us with. I often say, if you run your own race, you can't lose. And I think that speaks directly to what you're talking about, where so many times we're not trying to execute and be our best selves because we're trying to be what this person is doing or do what that person is doing or that organization. But if you stay true to who you are and stand on the shoulders of giants, so to speak, then you can really do some phenomenal things. So thank you so much for being that giant today. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.